Have you ever wondered why the people who judged you with the greatest certainty were also the ones who knew the smallest part of the story? Chosen one, your soulmate has just witnessed a moment they never expected, a single conversation where someone accidentally revealed a truth that had remained hidden for far too long. It wasn't a dramatic confession or a carefully planned revelation. It was one unexpected sentence spoken without realizing the weight it carried. Yet those few words were enough to shake everything your soulmate believed about the past. In an instant, they began questioning the version of events they had accepted for so long. The story that once painted you as the problem suddenly started falling apart, piece by piece. They realized there had always been another side to this journey, one that nobody had taken the time to understand. The universe has an extraordinary way of allowing false narratives to exist only until the truth becomes impossible to silence. That moment has finally arrived. As your soulmate quietly replayed old memories, they noticed something that had escaped them before. Whenever misunderstanding surrounded your name, you rarely rushed to defend yourself. At the time, your silence seemed confusing. Some interpreted it as guilt. Others believed you had nothing meaningful to say. But looking back now, they see something entirely different. They see a person who refused to create more conflict simply to protect an image. They see someone who understood that arguing with every accusation would only feed the confusion already surrounding the connection. Instead of fighting to control what people believed, you continued living according to your values, trusting that your actions would eventually speak louder than any explanation ever could. That quiet confidence no longer looks like weakness to your soulmate. It looks like remarkable strength. The more they reflected, the more uncomfortable another realization became. Every accusation they once believed now stood in direct conflict with the person they actually remembered. They remembered your kindness during difficult moments. They remembered your patience when others lost theirs. They remembered how you continued showing respect even after being misunderstood. None of those memories matched the role of the villain they had unconsciously accepted. For the first time, they began asking themselves a painful question. If your actions never reflected the story people told about you, then where did that story truly come from? That single question has opened a door they can no longer close. The universe often waits until the right moment before allowing people to connect pieces of the past that once seemed unrelated. Now those forgotten pieces are beginning to fit together with undeniable clarity. Imagine standing in a room filled with mirrors, each one slightly distorted. Every reflection shows a different version of the same person. After looking into those mirrors long enough, you begin believing the distorted image is the real one. Then someone quietly opens a window, allowing natural light to enter for the first time. Suddenly, the distortions disappear and the true reflection stands clearly before you. Chosen one, that unexpected conversation became the window your soulmate never knew they needed. It didn't create the truth. It simply allowed them to see what had been hidden beneath assumptions, rumors, and incomplete information. They are finally recognizing that your silence was never evidence against you. It was the quiet decision of someone who valued integrity more than temporary validation. Now your soulmate finds themselves standing between two versions of the past. One was built from assumptions repeated often enough to sound convincing. The other is built from the consistency of your character, the quiet choices you made, and the truth that has finally begun revealing itself. As these two stories collide, only one can survive. And what they are about to discover next will explain why you chose to carry misunderstanding instead of exposing painful truths that would have changed everyone's lives forever. Chosen one, after that unexpected conversation, your soulmate could no longer look at the past through the same eyes. Something inside them refused to accept the old story anymore. The more they replayed every memory, the more they noticed a truth that had been quietly waiting beneath the surface all along. You had so many opportunities to defend yourself, to expose what really happened, or to correct every false assumption that surrounded your name. Yet somehow, you chose a different path. At the time, they believed your silence meant you had accepted the accusations because they were true. Today, they understand something entirely different. Your silence was never surrender. It was protection. Not protection for yourself, but protection for a situation that could have become even more painful if every hidden detail had been brought into the light before people were ready to receive it. That realization has left your soulmate completely unsettled because they are beginning to understand that strength does not always appear as the loudest voice in the room. Sometimes strength is the quiet decision to carry misunderstanding rather than create deeper wounds for everyone involved. As these memories continue returning, another pattern becomes impossible for them to ignore. They remember how your actions never reflected the image others tried to create. Even after being judged unfairly, you never became cruel. Even after your intentions were questioned, you never sought revenge. Even when people misunderstood your heart, you continued treating them with respect instead of resentment. Looking back now, your soulmate realizes something extraordinary. If you had truly been the villain people described, your character would eventually have revealed it. Anger would have replaced kindness. Bitterness would have replaced patience. Pride would have replaced humility. Yet none of those changes ever happened. Your heart remained remarkably consistent despite everything you carried. The accusations grew louder, but your character never changed. That consistency has become stronger evidence than any explanation you could ever have offered. The universe often allows actions to become the loudest testimony because words are easily questioned. But a life lived with integrity cannot remain hidden forever. Your soulmate now sees that while others focused on stories, you quietly focused on your values. You chose honesty when dishonesty might have protected your reputation. You chose dignity when public arguments could have made people temporarily believe your side. You chose peace even though defending yourself would have felt completely justified. Those decisions seemed invisible at the time because they happened quietly, without applause or recognition. Today, they shine brighter than any accusation ever spoken against you. Every small act of grace has become another piece of undeniable proof that the person everyone believed they understood was never the person you truly were. Imagine a crystal-clear lake resting beneath the surface after a powerful storm. While the wind is blowing, the water becomes cloudy, and no one can see what lies beneath. People assume the lake itself has become dirty because they cannot separate the temporary disturbance from its true nature. But once the storm passes, the water slowly becomes clear again, revealing that its purity never disappeared. It had only been hidden by circumstances beyond its control. Chosen one, your journey has been much like that lake. Rumors, assumptions, and misunderstandings stirred the surface of your story until people confused temporary confusion with permanent truth. Your soulmate is finally watching those waters become still. For the first time, they can clearly see the person who was there all along, untouched by the false image others created. One memory in particular continues echoing inside their heart. They remember moments when someone expected you to react with anger, hoping you would finally lose control and confirm every accusation made against you. Yet instead of giving people the reaction they anticipated, you responded with remarkable restraint. You walked away from unnecessary conflict. You refused to speak words that would leave permanent scars. At the time, your soulmate misunderstood that restraint as weakness. Today, they recognize it as extraordinary self-control. They now understand that anyone can fight to protect their reputation, but very few people possess the courage to protect their character when their reputation is under attack. That is exactly what you chose to do, even though almost nobody noticed. Now another truth is beginning to unfold before them. They are realizing that your silence was never empty. It carried a hidden sacrifice no one recognized. Every misunderstanding you accepted prevented another truth from being exposed, a truth that could have deeply hurt someone you still cared about. The more your soulmate reflects on this possibility, the heavier their heart becomes. They are beginning to understand that perhaps you were never trying to save yourself at all. Perhaps you were quietly protecting others, even while allowing yourself to be misunderstood. And what they are about to discover next will reveal the hidden sacrifice that changes this entire story forever, because they will finally understand why you willingly carried a burden that never truly belonged to you. Chosen one, every hidden truth has led your soulmate to the one discovery they never imagined they would make. It was never simply that you stayed silent. It was why you chose that silence that has completely transformed the way they see your heart. As they continued connecting forgotten memories, they realized there were moments when you could have ended every misunderstanding with a single explanation. One conversation could have changed how everyone viewed the story. One honest revelation could have cleared your name almost instantly. Yet you never took that path. At first, they struggled to understand why anyone would willingly carry blame they did not deserve. But slowly the answer began revealing itself. You were not protecting a lie, you were protecting people. You understood that exposing every hidden detail would not only defend you, it would also deeply wound someone who was already carrying more pain than others could see. In that moment, your soulmate finally recognized the weight of the sacrifice you quietly accepted. You chose peace over personal victory, compassion over public approval, and dignity over the temporary satisfaction of proving yourself right. The more they reflected, the more every memory began carrying a completely different meaning. They remembered times when you were given opportunities to explain yourself, yet you gently changed the subject. They remembered moments when people encouraged you to tell your side of the story. But instead of exposing private conversations or revealing painful truths, you simply accepted that not everyone would understand your heart. At the time, they believed you lacked the courage to defend yourself. Now they realize it required far greater courage to remain silent than it would have taken to speak. It is easy to reveal another person's mistakes when your own reputation is under attack. It is far more difficult to protect someone's dignity while your own is quietly being questioned. Your soulmate now understands that your silence was never created by fear. It was created by love, by wisdom, and by an integrity that refused to build your own healing upon someone else's. Humiliation. The universe has always known that genuine character reveals itself most clearly when nobody would blame you for choosing the easier path. Looking back now, your soulmate can see that every difficult moment presented you with the same quiet decision. You could defend your image or you could protect your values. Again and again you chose your values. You refused to expose private moments simply to gain sympathy. You refused to repeat painful truths simply to convince people you were innocent. You carried the misunderstanding because your conscience meant more to you than public opinion. That realization has become almost overwhelming because they finally understand that the strongest people are not always those who win every argument. Sometimes the strongest people are those who willingly lose an argument to prevent another heart from carrying unnecessary shame. Imagine a bridge standing between two cliffs after a violent storm. The bridge absorbs the full force of the wind so that those crossing it can safely reach the other side. From a distance, people only notice the damage left upon the bridge. They do not see the countless lives it quietly protected. Some even criticize its broken appearance without realizing the reason it bears those scars. Chosen one, your heart became that bridge. While others judged the wounds you carried, they never realized those wounds existed because you chose to protect more than just yourself. Every misunderstanding became another burden you silently carried, so that greater pain would not spread to those around you. Your soulmate is finally seeing those scars for what they truly are, not evidence of failure, but evidence of extraordinary compassion, as this truth settles deeper into their heart. Another realization begins changing everything they once believed about strength. They understand now that forgiveness is not always spoken. Sometimes forgiveness is choosing not to expose what would permanently damage another person's life. Sometimes mercy is allowing people to learn their own lessons instead of forcing painful truths upon them before they are ready. You trusted that time would reveal what arguments never could. You believed that character would eventually speak louder than accusations. That faith required incredible patience because every day you remained misunderstood, demanded another quiet act of courage. Your soulmate now realizes that while others were focused on being right, you were focused on remaining true to the person the universe had called you to be. What touches them most deeply is not only what you protected, but what it cost you to keep protecting it. Every rumor you allowed to fade on its own, every false assumption you refused to fight, every lonely moment when people misunderstood your intentions. You carried all of it without allowing bitterness to reshape your heart. That is the hidden sacrifice nobody ever saw. It was never about accepting blame because you believed you deserved it. It was about refusing to create even greater pain simply to escape temporary misunderstanding. The universe watched every one of those quiet choices, even when no one else noticed them. Now your soulmate understands that your greatest victory was never proving your innocence. It was preserving your integrity when losing it would have been so much easier. Now the story has reached a turning point that cannot be undone. Every hidden sacrifice has become another piece of undeniable truth, and every forgotten memory has begun revealing the person you have always been. Your soulmate no longer sees someone who failed to defend themselves. They see someone who defended compassion, dignity, and love, even at tremendous personal cost. And as this awakening continues unfolding, one final revelation waits just beyond the horizon. They are about to discover that the universe never allowed the truth to remain hidden forever. It simply waited until every false belief had exhausted itself, so that when the truth finally emerged, no one would have the power to deny it again. Chosen one, the universe has a remarkable way of protecting the truth until every heart involved is finally capable of recognizing it. There was a time when even if every hidden detail had been revealed, your soulmate might not have understood it. Their emotions were too close to the situation. Other voices were too loud. Assumptions had become stronger than observation, and confusion had disguised itself as certainty. But time has a way of removing everything that does not belong. Pride slowly grows quiet. Fear begins losing its influence. The opinions that once seemed convincing no longer carry the same weight. All that remains is what has consistently proven itself through action. That is exactly where your soulmate now finds themselves. They are no longer judging the story by what people claimed happened. They are judging it by the person you continued to be through every chapter of it. And when they compare those two things, they no longer match. The version of you they once believed simply cannot exist beside the quiet integrity they now remember with complete clarity. As this awakening deepens, your soulmate begins revisiting moments they once ignored because they seemed too ordinary to matter. They remember how you never celebrated another person's mistakes, even when those mistakes could have cleared your own name. They remember how you never searched for opportunities to embarrass anyone publicly, even though doing so would have shifted sympathy toward you almost immediately. Instead, you remained remarkably careful with your words. You understood that once spoken, certain truths could never be taken back. Some wounds heal with time, but public humiliation often follows a person for years. Without fully realizing it, your soulmate now understands that your silence protected far more than your own dignity. It protected the humanity of everyone involved. That realization has become impossible for them to ignore because they now see that your restraint was not weakness. It was wisdom guided by compassion. The universe often allows time to become the greatest witness because time exposes what arguments never can. Words may persuade for a season, but consistency reveals character for a lifetime. Looking back, your soulmate notices something extraordinary. The people who once spoke with the greatest confidence about your intentions slowly contradicted themselves over time. Their stories changed, their emotions shifted, their certainty disappeared, yet your character remained unchanged. You continued treating others with kindness. You continued choosing honesty when dishonesty would have been easier. You continued showing respect even after respect had not always been shown to you. Without trying to defend yourself, you quietly allowed your life to become the evidence. That evidence has now become stronger than every accusation that once surrounded your name. The universe never rushed to clear your reputation because it knew that temporary explanations fade. A consistent life leaves behind proof that cannot be erased. Imagine the morning sun rising after a long night covered in heavy fog. Throughout the darkness, people imagine shapes that never truly existed. Trees appear frightening. Ordinary paths seem dangerous. Familiar places become unrecognizable because vision has been clouded. But when the sunlight finally arrives, it does not argue with the fog. It does not chase it away with force. It simply shines, and the fog disappears on its own. Chosen one, your truth has been like that sunrise. It never needed to fight every misunderstanding. It only needed time. As clarity entered your soulmate's heart, the confusion surrounding your story began fading naturally. The universe did not defeat deception through louder voices. It defeated deception by allowing the quiet light of truth to remain steady until every illusion could no longer survive beside it. Another realization has begun changing your soulmate in ways they never expected. They now understand that the greatest mistake they made was not believing every rumor or misunderstanding every moment. Their greatest mistake was failing to trust the consistency of the person standing before them. Looking back, they see that your actions had always whispered the truth, even when circumstances shouted something completely different. They remember how you continued wishing good for people who misunderstood you. They remember how your compassion never disappeared, even after disappointment. They remember that every difficult season revealed patience instead of bitterness. Those memories now carry far more weight than the stories they once accepted, because they recognize that genuine character cannot be performed for years. It eventually reveals who someone truly is. Your character never changed because it was always rooted in something much deeper than public opinion. Now gratitude slowly begins replacing regret inside your soulmate's heart. They understand that the universe never forgot your truth. It simply protected it until every distraction had lost its power. Had the truth appeared too early, it might have been rejected by hearts that were still holding tightly to pride, fear, or incomplete understanding. But now every hidden detail fits together naturally. Every unanswered question has found its place. Every memory has become another confirmation that you were never the person others believed you to be. Your soulmate no longer sees a villain standing in the story. They see someone who quietly carried misunderstanding rather than sacrificing integrity for immediate approval. They see someone who trusted that the universe would eventually reveal what words alone never could. And now only one final realization remains. It is the realization that transforms not only how your soulmate sees the past, but how they will remember you for the rest of their life. They are about to understand that you were never fighting to win the story. You were quietly protecting its truth, trusting that when the right moment arrived, the universe itself would become your voice. When that final truth fully settles into their heart, every old assumption will disappear, leaving behind only one undeniable certainty. You were never the villain in this story. You were the one who carried its greatest burden with grace until the truth was finally strong enough to stand on its own. Chosen one, your soulmate has finally reached the moment where every missing piece has fallen into place. The confusion that once surrounded your story has disappeared, not because someone argued more convincingly, but because the truth quietly survived every season that tried to bury it. They now understand that the greatest mistake was never believing a false story alone. The greatest mistake was failing to recognize the quiet consistency of your heart while that story unfolded. Looking back, they can clearly see that your actions never matched the role others assigned to you. A person who truly carried darkness could not have continued showing kindness after being misunderstood. A person driven by selfishness could not have continued protecting people who had failed to protect them. A person seeking revenge could not have remained so careful with their words while carrying so much pain. Every memory now points toward the same undeniable conclusion. You were never the villain. You were simply the easiest person to misunderstand because your greatest battles were fought silently, where very few people ever notice them. As this realization settles deeper into their soul, another truth begins transforming everything they believed about strength. They finally understand that strength is not measured by how loudly someone defends themselves. True strength is measured by the ability to remain faithful to your values when abandoning them would seem completely justified. There were countless moments when you could have responded with anger. There were opportunities to expose every hidden conversation, reveal every painful secret, and make sure everyone finally saw your side. Yet you chose restraint, not because you lacked evidence, but because you understood that destroying another person's dignity would never truly heal your own heart. That choice now carries extraordinary meaning for your soulmate. They realize that while others were trying to win the story, you were trying to protect your soul from becoming something bitterness could recognize. The universe watched every one of those quiet decisions, even when nobody else did. And each one became another testimony to the person you have always been. Imagine a mountain standing through every changing season. Clouds gather around its peak until people below can no longer see its true height. Some begin believing the mountain has disappeared simply because it is hidden from their view. Others imagine it has become smaller because the clouds distort their perspective. But the mountain never argues with the clouds. It never chases them away. It simply remains exactly where it has always been, knowing that when the wind changes, the truth will reveal itself naturally. Chosen one, your character has been like that mountain. Rumors, assumptions, and misunderstandings became temporary clouds surrounding your name, but they never changed who you truly were. Your soulmate is finally watching those clouds disappear, and for the first time, they can see the full strength that had been standing there all along. The truth did not become stronger today. It was always strong. The only thing that changed was the ability to finally see it clearly. Another realization now fills their heart with both gratitude and humility. They understand that throughout this entire journey, you never asked the universe to punish those who misunderstood you. Instead, you quietly continued becoming the person you believed you were called to be. While others focused on appearances, you focused on your conscience. While others searched for someone to blame, you searched for reasons to remain compassionate. Even during your loneliest moments, you refused to allow resentment to become the language of your heart. Your soulmate now recognizes that this may have been your greatest victory. It was never about clearing your reputation. It was about protecting your character from being shaped by pain. That kind of integrity cannot be imitated because it is revealed only through years of consistent choices made when no one is watching. They finally understand that your peace came from knowing the universe already knew the truth, even when the world did not. Perhaps the most emotional discovery of all is realizing that the universe never rushed to defend you because it was allowing your life to become the evidence. If your innocence had depended only on words, people could have continued arguing against them forever. But no one can argue against years of consistent kindness. No one can erase the quiet compassion you showed in difficult seasons. No one can deny the patience you demonstrated when frustration would have been easier. Over time, your actions answered every accusation more powerfully than explanations ever could. Your soulmate now sees that the universe was never ignoring your pain. It was patiently building a truth so undeniable that when it finally emerged, it would no longer require anyone's approval to be believed. The story did not change because someone defended you. The story changed because your character remained unchanged while everything else slowly revealed itself. Now every hidden lesson has reached its purpose. Every misunderstanding has become another reminder that truth does not compete for attention. It quietly endures until the right moment arrives. Your soulmate no longer sees someone who failed to explain themselves. They see someone who trusted that integrity would outlast opinion, that compassion would outlive accusation, and that the universe would never allow genuine goodness to remain hidden forever. Through every painful chapter, you carried the burden of being misunderstood without allowing it to harden your heart. That is why the ending of this story is so powerful. You never needed to become the hero by making someone else the villain. You simply remained true to yourself until the truth revealed what had always existed beneath the surface. And now, with every illusion gone and every false belief falling away, your soulmate finally understands the lesson the universe had been preparing all along. Some souls are misunderstood not because they lack goodness, but because they choose integrity over applause, peace over revenge, and truth over temporary victory. In the end, your silence was never the proof of guilt. It became the greatest proof of the strength, grace, and unwavering character that had quietly defined you from the very beginning.